Welcome. God damn it. I suck at intros, BTW.
Gus Villa Jewelry.
Welcome to the episode 3 of the Let's Talk Bling podcast with Gus Villa from Gus Villa Jewelry. God, why did I sound so formal on that one? That was horrendous.
That was good. That was impressive.
I start off these same podcasts saying the same crap every single time. So today we're gonna switch it up, man. I usually like to thank people for tuning in, but like honestly, to be fair, you're tuning in because you want to spend your time with us, and today it's an hour treat of what I think is going to be quite the interesting podcast. Why, Gus? Well, my brand is a very Miami brand, right? I'm right here in the 305. I employ people from the 305. I wear and I make Miami Cuban link chains. And I got a very, very, very cool treat for you guys today. I got a Miami guy, right? And he's something, it's funny because this podcast is technically a jewelry podcast. And yet I've not had one jewelry person this whole time.
You don't say.
I haven't had one person who's actually a jeweler. So today I got my boy Manny. He is a comedian. He does, you could look him up on Instagram. We'll tag his IG handle on here. And he's a dangerously, hilariously funny dude, but in a very, very 305 way. So without further ado, my boy Manny is here in the building.
Thank you, Gus. Oh, you gave me the right one. Nice.
Dude, I thought I was going to press the wrong one.
It's good to be here.
Jesus
Thanks
Christ,
for having me,
Manny.
Gus.
Introduce yourself. Tell the people who the hell you are.
I am a big Cuban link aficionado, officially as of today.
Dude, you're not.
I'm all blinged out, and I feel like this is who I should have been years ago. I mean, this is me. This feels so natural to be wearing 10 pounds of gold at all times on camera.
All right, so let's tell a little backstory. Manny came in here, and I don't know him very much. We've known each other for about roughly 20-30 minutes total. And he came up with the brilliant idea that if you're going to do the podcast, you're going to wear the most gaudy pieces that we have. So this is the
And when
look.
you bring it into the studio, you bring it in rolled with a napkin so that it's not obvious that you're carrying jewelry up and down.
That's how we do it in the 305, man. That's hell yeah. So Manny, I like to start every podcast because, I try to look you up. I try to do some research on you because, you don't want to go in there blind as hell. But I have no idea, and this is a good thing. I thought it was going to be like, oh man, like what am I going to ask him about? But I think I'm going to ask you, and I want to know because I think people are going to find it really interesting, especially in the world of comedy, who doesn't have like a bunch of biographies on Netflix of people starting off. Like, you get like the tech entrepreneurs that about their lives and like how you started, Facebook and all this crap. But no one really talks about like the grind that is to make it as a comedian. So I think it'd be very compelling to tell your story. And obviously you don't have to start from like, my parents met at a bar,
Yeah.
But how you got started and kind of like where you're at now. And then I'm going to ask you a bunch of other questions that I'm really interested in about finding. So go ahead.
So my dad was funny.
Okay.
And then I got his genetics when I was born. No.
Yeah.
So in Miami, there was no comedy when I first started in 2009.
Oh, you've been at this since 2009.
Yeah. I'm doing it a while.
Okay.
And 2014 is when I quit my job and decided to do it and just put marketing in the mix, and hopefully comedy would come to Miami somehow. So I ended up becoming a starving artist for 4 years.
Oh, yeah?
And then in 2018 is when MiamiComedy.com really started to get popular from all that starving artist blogging and podcasting and photos. Eventually, the traffic just boosted to the point where I could start producing multiple shows a week.
Yeah?
And so MiamiComedy.com has helped a lot of careers out. We've been getting better as a whole group of comedians here locally, talking about stuff.
Yeah, but tell me more. Like, I mean, now, it's funny because, there's a lot of people that do this, like, for instance, just in comedy in general, and they see kind of the end result. They go see you for a show. They go onto your website and they're like, okay, cool. I know this guy's funny because I found him on Instagram. But how was it in the very beginning, right? So when you didn't have a name, when people had no idea who the hell you were, and you didn't even have a website, right? I want to know more along the lines of like how you even came up with the idea, or even started realizing that you're funny, and that maybe someone would be kind of like laughing at your jokes enough to pay for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I do coaching, and everyone's path is different. So one thing I do believe is anyone can be funny,
Yeah.
right? In their own way. You just have to figure it out.
Yeah. All right.
It took me a while,
Yeah.
but if you really stick to it and you call yourself a comedian, eventually you're gonna understand how to command your humor,
Sure.
and what your audience wants. And so once you start getting to the level of writing comedy or performing comedy where it's consistent, you can just take it from there.
And how'd you start? Like, what'd you do?
Well, I started doing an open mic, and unfortunately, I decided to do it at a very packed comedy club. Remember the Improv in Coconut Grove?
Of course.
That's where I
Legendary.
first performed. It was bad.
That
It was the most humiliating night of my life. There was no reason for me to be doing
go.
comedy the first time there, out of all places.
Let's go.
And they let you. They were like, "Oh, just bring a bunch of people. We'll put you up there."
But that's what I'm saying. How did they let someone who has zero stand-up comedy experience get on this microphone? That makes no sense.
Sometimes bombing can be entertaining. They said do 5 minutes, and I was bombing so bad that they gave me 7.
Do you remember?
Someone was in the back was like, "Hey, should we light him?" He's like, No. He's really shitting himself up there. Go give him another 2 minutes.
That's
This is
awful.
great. And then the DJ played Hit the Road Jack right at the end. I mean, all they needed was a little midget with a little broom sweeping me off the
You
thing.
remember Sábado Gigante when the chacal would come out and you're like,
Yes.
fuera?
Yes.
That's what it was
That's
like.
all that was needed, something like that. The hook.
Do you remember a joke that you said?
Man, I really don't, because I blacked out. It was kind of my fault as to why I bombed. I got drunk off Crown Royale in the back.
Because you were nervous.
No, I was also very cocky because I had a girlfriend.
Oh, you
at the
thought
time,
you were
and-
going to kill it.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the video because they had this live video screen, and so every person I was seeing, I was like number 32 out of all the people. So the
idiot.
audience is already tired, and then number 33 comes up, and then I was so drunk that when I pulled the mic, I was so disoriented by the lights. I pulled the mic out of the mic stand, I slapped my mouth with it, and the thud just echoed across the entire auditorium. And I've never felt that energy in my life, but
Brutal.
seeing hundreds of people wincing at or cringing at the same time is one of the most debilitating feelings psychically that I've ever felt in my life. It's like a black hole in the center of the whole place.
Oh, my
There was nothing I could do to get
God.
myself out of it. And so it was
Did you
just
at least
silence.
nail one joke,
No.
dude? Nothing.
Nothing.
It was just bombs after bombs. Bombs
Yeah.
over Baghdad.
But no one was talking. It was just so quiet because people were so hyper focused on what was happening on stage. That who was this guy that memorized all his material and is saying it verbatim? And I did. I was recording myself on camera in front of the bathroom mirror for the last like 3 days before the performance, telling the jokes in the mirror. So when I went up there and I was blacked out, I was just like in blackout verbatim mode where I was just saying,
Jesus
and then it was like a monologue. But after you go through that kind of humiliation, you really can't. Like after that, you really can't go back to feeling that again. So it was a blessing in disguise.
Do you think that like that experience specifically, normally, I mean, look, I put it into my context, it'd be like me starting my first day of jewelry and just absolutely tanking it. And that's okay. Like there's also a level of, messing up in the very beginning. But I think what makes it very weird and very strange in the comedy world is that you have an instant audience to tell you exactly how you're doing, right? Like if your joke bombs, people are not gonna laugh. So it's not like, oh, we'll know the results later. No, you're gonna know the results right now, and people are right in front of you telling you,
Yeah.
dude, you sucked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like I feel like that would deter anyone from ever going back to doing comedy. So why the hell did you go back?
Do you ever hear those stories about those moms that are able to lift cars to save their children?
I saw a YouTube video
So
on
when
that.
you do stand-up comedy, it's like you trying to do that, but with jokes. Like I'm in the moment and I got to be funny right now. So hopefully the best version of you, the most funny version of you starts shining in the moment on stage. And so sometimes like I see people when they first get started, like they do the same thing. They're in verbatim mode where it's just, I'm just going to recite my jokes and see what happens. But then I also see like sometimes a spark in people where I'm bombing. I got to do something. And then something happens and they just blurt something out. People laugh and they're like, oh, is that what you want? And then you just go on a roll with that. And then you just go on a tangent from what you had. And then your real funny side starts shining. That's when you understand humor a lot more quickly. When you're just having fun.
How long before you actually got good?
4 years.
Damn.
Yeah, I was a slow learner. That's why I do coaching, because I learned it the hard way. I was naturally funny because of my dad's charisma, but I didn't know how to write a joke, deliver the joke, or how to be consistent with jokes, right? Because it's just like, I hope this is funny. But now it's like, this could be funny if I did it like this. So your brain starts connecting the funny a little bit better over the years. And then I got into coaching, because since I took such a long route to understand it, I was like, well, I can also see when someone comes up at one of my shows and they're kind of struggling. It's like, well, the reason you struggle is because, you're kind of like hunched over. And so people think that you're not comfortable. Yeah. And so you kind of see these little nuances more than others.
Is that learned because you bombed so much for 4 years? Or is that just like and where are they taking you in these kind of places? Like for 4 years, what are you doing? You're just going in to the Improv or wherever it is and just straight up like,
well, you get a little laugh here and there. You're not good, but you show up. So when there's two parts to this explanation. The first one is there was no comedy. There wasn't a lot of comedy in Miami. It was like one show a week at most, really, that you can go up, right? And what I would have to do is I would have to drive to Boca or Marco Island or Jupiter, Florida, to get my 5 minutes of stage time after work. And the people there would be like open mic, like, oh, there's someone going up and talking while we're having dinner on a Tuesday. What is this? Right?
That's awkward.
And so I would have to go to crowds that don't want to hear or would rather not hear your comedy. And then I would also have to go back and write the comedy. So every time I would write, I would then have to drive to then get good. So then 4 years later, I started then experimenting with show production. And I was okay. I wouldn't say I was hilarious just yet, but I was okay enough to kind of get by. And then one show ended up being two, and then once it started becoming more and more popular, it's kind of like my talent and the show frequency met at the right time.
Right.
And so that's where we are at right now.
What causes, like, I used to see like old Chappelle stuff, and of course I'm comparing, like, we're talking about Chappelle. He's probably one of the better ones to
I love
ever
all his
happen.
specials. They're so good.
No, I mean, they're absolutely phenomenal. But I just remember, like, I used to always say back in the day, I used to be fascinated in watching, like, he would come on like on BET and he'd come on this stuff, and his joke telling back then is completely different than what it is right now. And he's a lot slower in his paces, but it's still probably even funnier now than it was back then. And then I started getting like the curiosity. I was doing more research on you, Manny. Yes, I am a researcher.
As you should for a podcast interviewer.
Yeah. I wanted to know how your progressions of coming up and telling a joke. First, I just want to know, how the hell do you think of a joke? Because I can think something is funny, right? But I don't really know how to tell it in a joke. How you come up with the structure of a joke, and then how you deliver it, and how do you improve on it?
Oh, you want to get into the creative side?
Yeah, hell yeah.
I want to touch on something that not a lot of people have thought of, and you just mentioned it. If you ever creep or stalk a girl, just say you're a podcast show host.
And let's get it.
That's
a free
totally
pass.
acceptable.
That's a free
like,
pass.
How do you know so much about me? I do a podcast show. I'm interested in having you on as a guest. That's a great out.
You know what I'm saying?
So
I stalked you. So what? So what, bro?
I got a show to run.
You know what I'm saying?
Business.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, bro.
So when it comes to the creative side, it's just study creativity. That the creativity is so fleeting that to kind of like grab it, you can't really get a good grasp, but you can kind of get an understanding of it, especially in your own way. So for the last 2 years, this is when I really started looking into it. And one of the most important things that I've learned is you got to be very relaxed and chill in your lifestyle so that the creativity can come through you. You also have to be very selfless, because the more you try to prove to others or like one up yourself or one up someone, the level of creativity that you're going to get in touch with is not going to be the best kind. The best kind of creativity is when you're working at it, meaning like you sit down and you just write something, like some thoughts, some ideas. You're just going into your mind or going into your feelings and what you want to express, and you just make it private. And then eventually there's going to be this thing that they call the muse, where like the window
What's that,
opens,
bro?
the
Hold
window
on.
opens, and then this thing just comes into you, and you're just like, where did that come from? I better capture it now. So most creative people, they try to be selfless, and then they try to work to try to capture ideas, so that when a really good one comes, you're in there, you got it, you've captured it. Because sometimes you can be in the bus, you get a really good idea, and you're like, damn, that was awesome, and then you just forget about it. You're like, what was that thing that I was thinking about today that was really cool? So the more you capture it and the more you work on it, the more frequency you get from forgetting it. So like the Brickell Bridge one that you were telling me about.
If you
I
guys
didn't even
haven't
try hard to get the idea.
If you guys haven't seen the Brickell, again, we're gonna put on the screen right now. We're gonna put his handle. Go in there and go down all his feet until you find where he is.
It's pinned on the side. It's still pinned.
Oh, was it?
As of the recording, it's still pinned on the top.
It is a Brickell. Which, let me paint the picture. Brickell is like a very high buildings in Miami. It's a very, very congested city. And of course, on top of there being just brutal traffic, you get these drawbridges that go up at the most unopportune times. I mean, if you're in Miami, it's like getting kicked in the nuts you're in traffic. It's like you're in traffic and you're getting kicked in the nuts. And so you did this skit where it's like this, I guess there's an interview, and it's so spot on of what we are all feeling in the car, sucking wind, getting our nuts kicked in, sitting in this traffic.
People still tag me of them stuck in the bridge, and I don't even know who these people are. It's just like, guess what? And you see the bridge going.
Because it's so relatable. But that's what I'm saying. So like when you think of these jokes, you know what I mean? It's funny how to dissect the mind of a comedian who structures a joke and then has that punchline and has that delivery to actually make it funny.
Well, that one came to me very easily. I didn't have to try too hard. I was surprised myself once it started hitting like 1,000. I was like, oh my God, am I going viral locally for the first time ever? This is insane. And then when the tagging started happening, I was like, oh, this is how it works. Yeah. But I was not expecting. And thank you to everybody that shared it. If you guys shared it, shout out. You guys contributed to me being on this podcast wearing all this bling. So thank you.
Do you look at your other peers when you're doing it? Because here in Miami, there's like 5 or 6 big time dudes that are. Oh yeah,
they come to my shows all the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How often are you looking at the next person, or do you like make a? Because I again in my 20 minutes of research on comedy, I always wondered that there was this like beef of like. Carlos Mencia like copying other people's like jokes and stuff.
I've had some popular comedians copy my stuff too. I mean, I'm not gonna drop names, but it happens. It's normal.
Is it?
Yeah, because the creative thing I was telling you about, it's work and it takes time, right? And it's normal for some jokes to be better than others, right? I still don't understand, like, if I'm writing comedy and someone goes in there and be like, this one's not funny. It's like, well, I'm in the process of getting there. Right? People think like everything has to be a hitter. It's like, no, I have to put these out in order for the hitter to come around. And so sometimes what comedians want is they want everything they post to be hitters. And so they then, like, if they're out of ideas, rather than doing the work or like taking a hit in their numbers, they would rather go see what else is working and then just steal the essence of that and then add it on their own repertoire. And that's fine. I mean, it's cheating, but cheat to win, right? Then isn't that like a saying? So, and people get away with it, and their fans don't know that they took it from some other, so it just happens. It's a very normal thing to do creatively.
Yeah, but that sucks though, dude, because like it's like you go around thinking, you go into these shows and you think these guys are like that's so funny. I think like the bigger part about me is when I see a comedian or anybody like a talent, it's so like the enamoring part of seeing a talented person do whatever it is, whether they play guitar, whether they tell jokes, is, God damn, bro, they're so good. I'll never be that good. I'll never be that creative.
That's an incredible thing. That blows my mind that somebody can look at someone doing something that you would love to do and then saying, I'd love that, but I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Why would you think like that?
I don't know, man. It's just the way I sometimes like I look at a joke, right? And I look at a comedian and I'm more like, yes, the joke is hilarious, right? But it's also about like thinking in the back of my mind, like, damn, dude, like not that I'm not even passionate for it, but you're also just admiring someone's like talent in doing that, right?
Oh, I thought you meant like you want to be a comedian.
Hell no.
Okay,
No.
you don't want to go the path of
Jesus
starving
Christ,
artists.
Jesus,
Okay,
goddamn,
then,
Manny,
don't
I'm
do
a
that
jeweler,
shit.
bro.
Yeah,
Like, get
don't
out of
do
here.
that. Are you crazy? You're gonna waste your time.
No.
You gotta make this bling, man. You
No,
gotta make,
dude,
Miami shiny.
No. It's like when you go to a concert, you know what I mean? And you see a guitarist and he's absolutely shredding it, you know what I mean? And you're just like, damn,
Yeah,
dude,
I
like
follow a lot of bassists, guitarists, drummers, and I just look at how amazing they work their instrument, and I'm amazed. Yeah. But I'm not gonna. But what I mean is like I don't want to look at that and be like, man, I wish one day I could drum that good.
Yeah, no.
But I'm never going to do that.
No.
Like you bring yourself down to seeing somebody talented.
No. I was thinking it more so like, damn, like I think of these comedians and I'm like you are so creative of a person to come up with these kind of jokes and then have the balls to go up on stage and actually deliver them. And now that you say that, like that there are some people that steal each other's jokes and stuff like that, it kind of, I don't know, it kind of like burst my bubble a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Hey man, it's not often, but it occurs, and it's and there's even like there's a saying that says steal ideas, artists steal or something like that. Have you heard of it?
No, I've never heard that in my life.
Or like an artist steals ideas and makes it their own or something like that. Well, I don't know. There's a famous quote. Look it up. I'm sure some people that are watching this is saying it and screaming it at the screen while I'm saying it.
Yeah.
But what artists
They're
do...
going to leave it in the YouTube comments. Dumbass, it's this.
Yeah. Tag me.
Yeah.
So what you do is you get a really cool idea and then you just remix it and you make it your own. And then people won't be able to. It's so good remixed that people won't be able to trace it back to the original.
It's almost like
inspiration.
Almost like an inspiration, right?
Yeah. So that's what I mean when I say it's normal. I mean, some people will also go out of their way and steal the idea verbatim, which is the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
But it's also very normal to steal ideas here and there and just remixing it to make it your own. Like think of all the people that play like a particular genre of music. One person made that genre, and then that one person's idea then expanded where you have an entire festival of bands playing that genre.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's something like that. I mean, it's a beautiful thing if you do it right.
I think the beer's got here. So
now it's gonna go even deeper down the rabbit hole.
Now we're gonna get personal. This is the second part of the where I start getting. Let's start talking about your insecurities, Manny. All right, guys. We are not sponsored by Modelo. We're just gonna top this things here. Hold on. This is not a twist off, Papa, but we open it up with a credit card around here. Oh, cheers. That was a beer getting popped off. We may edit.
What a flex, man.
What's up?
With a hard, what is that? A metallic?
Yeah,
a metallic Amex card.
Yeah. Right.
We
Number
popping Modelos.
376.
Especial.
Cheers, bro. Cheers,
man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man.
Cheers to everyone watching.
Yeah, absolutely.
More episode. Here we go.
Yeah. Personal side of the podcast now. Manny, question. When did you start getting good?
20.
And how did you know?
I got good in 2014. Mm-hmm. I remember I got my first 5 minutes of back-to-back material in 2014. 4 or 5 years later after I started. I remember I made a recording. I did it I was at the Improv, and it was just back-to-back, clap, back. I was like, oh my God, I killed. Yeah. I've never done that. And I remember I was so elated when I saw that. I was just like laying in my bed, belly down with my feet in the air like a little schoolgirl, like looking at the video over and over, like, oh my God, I killed. I was so happy with myself. And then, but the second part of when I got good, because I think there's a different way that, like, when you get good, that's not the end. Like, you still got unlimited to go if you really want to.
Yeah, but it's the point where you're not bombing, I think.
Yeah. So I think it was when I started understanding social media. I was very rebellious. I can, as a marketer, I know what social media is doing to the minds of people and how it's tricking people. Like, I see the evil side of it, but then as I started understanding it and participating, I was like, oh, but it can also be like a fun thing where we're just having fun and forgetting about life's troubles. So then when I stopped being cynical with social media and I started actually contributing creatively to it, I was a little bad at it. I was just writing memes and like, little tacky Miami things here and there. But then I kind of wanted more. Like I found a good formula where the memes were working, but I was like, nah, but I'm not satisfied just doing memes. Like I want more. So then I started podcasting, and then I started writing one-liners, and then I got into characters and reels and TikTok. And then when all that stuff came out, and then I see recently that it's getting attention, I was like, oh, okay, I figured this part out. But then I wonder sometimes, like, well, what's next, right? Like, what's the next big thing? Like, Reels and TikTok is the social media now. Sure. But what's going to be? Have you ever wondered
what's
like
the next
what's
move?
going to beat that?
Yeah.
I'm always curious to know about stuff like that.
I think right now, especially in the day we're living, before it was, from what you'd hear, and like you hear, like I heard a Louis C.K. podcast. I think he was on with like Theo Von, and these guys just had to do it. They had just the audience that was in front of them, and then they would have to go, and if they wanted an audience or they wanted to test out some new material or whatever, they would just play it. They would have to go to the thing, kind of like how you did back in the day when you'd have to go to Boca to just, tell your jokes. And now with the emergence of social media, specifically now with the push of Instagram on Reels and TikToks and that kind of things, and video format type of comedy or content creation, specifically comedians are at a huge advantage that I think that has never actually happened before.
You nailed it.
That's kind of what I'm curious about too. Like, you've been doing this shit for a while, dude? It's not like you started. Oh, I started a month ago because I got famous on a couple of reels.
And I got viral that one time. Thanks for having me. Which has happened multiple times.
And I'm down to talk to that person too. But I'm more curious to know how specifically the Miami comedy scene has changed and where it's at now.
Yeah, I really want to take all the credit for Miami comedy.
Do it, hell yeah.
Showing other comedians how to do it right. Well, no, I remember when I first started putting this business model in place, a lot of people were kind of giving me a lot of criticism. It was hard. Like, I said this before to a friend of mine. I said, when you're innovating, people think you're doing it wrong for a while until people then see, oh, I see what you're doing. So, I really believe that, or still do, believed and still believe that, I think comedy is going to be the savior of human consciousness and political beef and all the conflict in the world, because we start realizing, oh, this is like a game. Like, why are we taking each other so seriously? And then one level below that, as comedians, we then have to realize that, we're very ego driven, or we have some sort of emotional hangups, because like, I want you to think about for a second, Gus, like think about the kind of personality it takes for some guy or girl, or they, them, whatever, it's 2023, or that person to go up and be like, I want to make strangers laugh. Like, think about how crazy that is. Like, I'm going to stop everything I'm doing and I want to make strangers laugh. All right. So with that in mind, you then have to realize that since there's so much ego involved in this industry, there's going to be people that are going to try to stop you from doing such a thing. Either you're not funny, or, you got to know somebody to get to that club. So there's a lot. And even if you look at things like America's Got Talent, somebody goes up, worked years in their craft. They've got 5 minutes of stage time. The audience, thousands of people in the audience are loving. And then 2 people gave you the X, and now you can't advance. So that form of entertainment, and not just in comedy, but in anything, in business and music and whatever, we no longer dependent on a select few of people to advance our careers. We can now build something on our own, because we can aggregate our own audience slowly but surely. Of course, there's no shortcuts with social media. You have to grow it, unless you pop off with one video, and more power to you. But, it's a grind. And as you continue the grind, you love the process, and you learn about your audience. You learn about your craft. You get better and better. Next thing you know, you have a sustainable living doing what you love. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
God damn, Manny. Fucking cheers to that,
all
man.
Right,
Jesus Christ,
cheers,
man. I feel like fucking running through a wall right now, dude.
But comedians have gotten more entrepreneurial. And I remember in 2016, I was touting this online. I was like, guys, the more independent you are as a comedian, the more success you're going to get. Because if you're waiting for somebody to make you big, then you're just wasting time. It's like winning a lottery. I found somebody that blew me up. Well, what about all the other people that are also just as funny, if not funnier? They don't get a shot because they didn't know that person. Now we can just have control of our career completely.
Do you think that right now, with the power of social media, like comedians are going to take a shortcut to that? Do you feel that that's kind of what's happening?
Sure. I see comedians doing it right now. They get started and they're like, I'm going to produce a show next week. I was like, God damn, you don't even have your 5 minutes left yet. But I think you learn doing stuff like that, to be honest with you. You have to jump. So if somebody has the cojones to, immediately produce and host a show and it's their first time doing it, if you do that, you're going to get more experience doing that than if you would grinding it out. So it really depends on your temperament. Do you prefer getting good before taking that next step, or are you going to take the next step immediately and just see where that takes you?
Dude, yeah, because the thing is, like, especially here in Miami, where, like, as much, you talk about, like, they're sports fans, right? And I don't want to just segregate this just to the city of Miami, but, like, in a broader term, Miami specifically is a very what's poppin' now kind of town, right? And I'll give you a prime example.
You're so insightful, Gus. I'm glad we met.
Thanks, man.
I think about this stuff all the time.
Yeah, thanks, man. But it's kind of like the environment that we live in. It's kind of like, you have to start kind of seeing the trends that are happening, essentially. And so me and my DJ friend were just talking about this yesterday at a bar, and we were just talking trash, and we were like, and he was telling me he's an OG DJ and he's been around for 20 years. And he was telling me, like, and we, about the trends that are happening within the DJ world. And I see so many similarities with comedy and how it's changing. And so a part of me is like, what is it going to take? Because Miami is so insanely, like, fickle and they just want whatever's hot, you know what I mean? Trending,
relevance.
Right? Relevance. When is it going to be comedy's turn? Because I think it is happening.
I'm sorry. It's already happening.
Yeah, right?
And they're realizing comedians can be trending and relevant as long as it's entertaining, right? And it pertains to their identity.
Mm-hmm. But is it just what I fear, right, is that, okay, cool, now it's cool to go to a comedy show, right? But then eventually, just like everything else here, it doesn't become cool anymore. And then so now you got this
comedy will always be cool if it's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so, man, because like I said, a lot of it, has to do with kind of what is cool, what is trending in the market today, and that's kind of where, like, I show myself, like, as a club or a comedian or a performer or whatever, and you start really thinking to yourself, like, okay, when is the time gonna kind of pass or whatever. So as comedians, what do you guys do to, like, have that sustainability, so where it's not just, oh, you came out with that really cool funny skit on a reel, you know what I mean? But now my 5 seconds of fame are over or whatever. And, now I'm just back to driving up to Boca for 5 minutes.
And that's a very normal and unfortunate, thing to happen for some people, or they have something figured out, it works for a while, and then they use it as a crutch, and then it no longer works. Then it's like, now what? What's great about Miami is trends come and go. Mm-hmm. And so if you figure something out and you stick to it for too long, Miami will tell you. It'll show you. Yeah. They're like, all right, that's enough of that. We got to do cool shit now.
You got to come up with a better skit than
So I think Miami, I noticed that a lot of headlining, very talented comedians don't come to Miami often because they know about what we're talking about, where it's like, you ain't popping. You may be popping in Akron, Ohio. You might be selling out theaters there, but you ain't going to sell nothing in Miami. And I think a lot of comedians are realizing that Miami is so in the party scene and so into the trending, relevant scene that sometimes a comedian talking about his life isn't really interesting to our city. Not necessarily it's a bad thing. I love all kinds of comedy, but Miami is just ruthless as an audience. Think about how there's hardly any stages here other than the arena. Because if you can't fill out that arena, don't come to Miami. Can you imagine an indie band coming here to do a tour? No one's gonna buy tickets to see that. It's gonna be background music while we're doing happy hour or brunch.
Yeah, for sure.
I love indie bands, but I love fly here.
But I'm also not trying to hear,
But there's certain things that Miami does catch on. We're like, hey, that's kind of cool. We kind of need that. And that's the thing. It exposes itself naturally and organically to Miami. So, like, for example, I've always been a huge music fan. Like, I love collecting vinyl. Well, I used to. Not anymore. I don't have any space for that in my garage. But I love music, like, to the point where I have my Spotify list, which is huge. I used to have vinyl. And then recently, the Miami, what's the name of it? well, I don't want to drop names, but there's 2 vinyl bars. Have you heard of these bars? Like one in Wynwood, one in downtown. And they're playing like these really cool beats, like worldwide beats. Like, oh, we got a Brazilian DJ here playing. So if you want to hear,
Dante's is like that in
that's
Wynwood.
the one.
Dante's Hi-Fi. Shout out to Dante's Hi-Fi. Yeah.
And
Shout out to Rich Medina.
we're
I know
also
Rich
gonna,
Medina, cool dude.
you know. All right,
Yeah.
so then we're also gonna drop Miami Soundbar. In
Oh
downtown.
yeah, Miami Soundbar is
So
dope.
shout out those 2 bars because they're mixing up music in Miami that Miami would love. Like Miami would love Afro beats from Brazil, and Miami would love cumbia from the 50s made in Colombia. So when you got stuff like that emerging, Miami then as a whole, as a collective consciousness, starts realizing, hey man, you know, this stuff adds to what we already are anyway. Right. And now that it's here, it's kind of cool. Comedy is doing the same thing where it's like, hey, you know, us as Miamians, we've got a lot of stuff happening in our culture, and to make fun of it is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Right. However, what I love about performing for the Miami crowd is that when I leave Miami and I start performing elsewhere, I'm so accustomed to people giving me the "what do you got" vibe whenever I perform. Because if you go to New York, or I performed like in Dayton, Ohio one time, like on a random show. You know, I went to Philly. Like I've done these shows at comedy clubs. People are showing up in comedy shirts, like George Carlin shirt,
Oh,
some
Jesus
deep cut,
Christ.
yeah, some deep cut podcast shirts. And I'm looking out in the audience like, you guys are all comedy fans. I could say anything I want, and you guys are like, we fucking love it.
Yeah.
Right? Here in Miami, when you do the bars, you'll be packed. There'll be like 30, 40 people, you know, all the corners of the bar filled in. And you just get this vibe of like, all right, funny man, we're here.
Make us
Holding up a
laugh.
cocktail. What do you got? And you can't even start with material. You got to do crowd work. You got to make them a part of the show before you go into your act.
So does it make you a better comic?
Of course.
And why do you think? What is it about the Miami crowd specifically? Is it just because we're all Hispanic and we're all super judgmental? Is that what it is?
I guess. I don't know. It's just like maybe we're just narcissists.
That could be it too, man. Bro, with the shame and please give me the shameless plugs, right? I want the shameless. I think
Okay.
people need to know. I want them, right? What is going on? For someone like myself who discovered you because of a funny skit, there are also a bunch of other comedians down here in Miami that you said that you work with that are making waves on social media, and it's expanding more so than just Miami itself, right? And I think that it's funny to just sometimes I will show a skit to someone who isn't even from Miami, and it's the type of humor that you would regularly just understand if you're here in the city of the 305. And it's even funny outside of Miami. So I think as a whole, Miami's just humor and the comedy scene is growing, but I still don't really know what the hell is going on. I didn't know there was a show tonight where you're going to be performing. I didn't know there's shows in general,
Yeah,
right?
we're still kind of cultish.
Okay,
But our
cool.
shows are very popular, but
What's
not-
going on? Give
not
me
to
the Miami,
point.
paint the picture of a Miami scene
Today?
in comedy right now, 2023.
So you've got levels. You've got what in the performer side. You've got the ones that just got started that are still working on it, trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
You've got the middle regulars that are funny, that are out there doing their thing. Some are a little stuck in limbo by not developing themselves or their act, but they're still on the circuit. And then you've got like a couple of people that have good promotional power, have a great audience, understand their humor, and as you go up, it's kind of like a pyramid, right? Like you got mostly down here, middle here, and then a few up here. So that's the first part. And then when it comes to the audience, the second part, the audience is now getting a little more savvy, word of mouth. I like this kind of humor. I like this guy. Or my friend is performing, let's go see him, that kind of thing. And then the third one, the venues are starting to realize that we could probably afford a comedy show here because these guys work for peanuts to perform for us here on a
really?
Tuesday night.
Oh, really?
So when you work with, no, I'm just kidding. All the venues I
was
work
gonna
with,
say, damn.
all the venues I work with have been extremely supportive. But the venues are the reason why we don't really need a comedy we do have a comedy club. First of all, we do have the Improv in Doral. Shout out to them. They have a great club, great shows. But you can now go to your favorite bar, and if the owner of that bar says on our off night where we have less business, we'll then hire a comedy show production. So then we have like these pop-up shows where us as comedians do like makeshift comedy clubs. And then we have our own little audiences, whether it's from the venue or from our own, that would come out and just want an excuse to drink. Like, I just want to grab a beer and just watch some guy work on his act. Maybe even heckle him if I get a little tipsy.
Hey.
You know, make it a thing.
I'm a heckler.
I can definitely tell.
Oh,
and
thanks,
I wouldn't even
Manny.
mess with you
Jesus Christ.
because if I didn't know you and I look down in the audience and I see the dude with tats, heavy set with a gold chain and a beer, like, hey man, I'd be like, sir, the show is over. You win. I'm not gonna even clap back to this guy. I don't know what is going on. You pick your battles when it comes to hecklers. Oh yeah.
Oh, do you?
The fourth. The hecklers.
The hecklers.
How could you forget?
The me's.
They are the reason comedians get good in Miami.
Yeah.
You're up there, you're thinking you're safe with your act. Next thing you know, some guy like him is yelling at you. You're just like, I got to think of my toes now.
How do you deal? It's funny you say that, man, because how do you deal with those hecklers, man? And in a city that's notoriously brutal to comedians.
Well, hecklers actually, I like them. If as long as they're not the worst ones are the belligerent ones, like the ones that because there's hecklers that want to have fun with you.
Sure.
Like, hey, look, I want to partake in what you're talking about, and then girls are like the girl hecklers are like that, where it's just like I'm hot, it's about me, talk to me, let me be part of this, and they're fun. Like they actually like they give you a vibe of like let's have fun, right? The ones that I dislike are the ones that are the drunk. I'm fucked up, Jesus. And if things go wrong, I might fight you. I'm like, oh Jesus! Like you could just feel it immediately just by the way the guy slurred his words. Hey, and they don't even say anything. Just hey. You know, I really appreciate what you said about our former president, okay?
Oh, God.
That man allowed us to...
Oh, my God.
And they do it in the comments, too. Like, have you had hecklers in your comments?
Nah.
That's a new era of hecklers.
Yeah.
Where they tell you, like, a whole story of of how they see the world. And it's like, oh, shit. Put a pause to this Instagram channel. We got to listen to this guy now.
Yeah. Like anyone gives a shit.
Yeah. It's like, dude, why are you telling me like your life perspective right now? This is a comedy page. Oh. No, I just don't appreciate that you're... what I do now is like, I don't even respond. Like if someone says anything negative or derogatory, I just swipe, delete. Yeah. Like I don't even need... Thank God we have that option.
Yeah.
They put all that effort and you just go, weep. It's done.
Done. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of here, heckler.
And then they try to come back and they say, why did you leave my comment? Block. That's it. I gave you one chance. That's it.
In today's climate, man, even in the jewelry space, sometimes I have to second guess what I say in just the most common things. Like I'll post something, whatever. It'll just say like Miami Cuban, and it'll be like, I don't know. I'll just, the other day I gave a shout out to my city in one of my posts and I said, I employ, people from Miami and they are, here because I want to move the economy of Miami and not because I'm going to, I'm a drop in the bucket of what the larger part of this, or commerce in the city of Miami is. I understand that, but it doesn't matter. But my employees here would know that they are from here. I employ from here, and we're all from here, right? And I move this product. This is like proudly from Miami, Florida, right? And so, even in a post as non-threatening as that, I got just inundated in the comments of just it becoming this insanely political thing, right? And that was, damn it, dude, that's like not even kind of tipping the scale in a political subject, right? How do you handle today's climate of everyone being very, very sensitive? And how do you just say, what's your strategy behind that? Because it's very interesting how some people like Seinfeld won't talk about it. And then others like, we're going to fuck it in the ass kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Do your little trick there. I want to open a new beer to respond to this one.
Because this one's going to be a long one. You could do it. Go ahead. I'll start. I'll open it up for you.
Oh, yeah, because I don't know that trick.
Come on.
Look at the strength. The finger strength. Thank you. So the number one problem with America right now, I know what it is. It's easy. People can't think in contradictory terms. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, sure.
Like if I believe in something and I don't have the capacity to see how the other person is thinking because I'm right. That's all it is. That's the only issue we have. But think about how much more understanding, sympathetic, empathetic, and intellectual you would be, or rather evolved you would be, if you believed in what you believed in while seeing another person's perspective. You may not agree with it, but to understand it in a certain level of thoroughness, your beliefs can still stand where it's at. But you mixing in something contradictory to that belief would make you a much more superior thinking person, because you're now thinking critically rather than just linear. And that's what's going on with America right now, where it's like, well, if you believe that, then you're already wrong. Or it's like, okay, but it's more complex than that. So what's great about being a comedian is we do this thing that we call perspectiving. That what we do is, in order to make something funny, we can see like a lot of perspectives in that one thing rather than just one way of seeing something. Mm-hmm. And then that allows us to get more material, right? Like, so if I'm making fun of abortion, I can then make fun of those that want to defend it, and I can make fun of those that are standing outside of it, outside with their signs. There's just so many different things to make fun of it, because I can understand different perspectives of that one topic. But then there's just some people that are like the Manchurian Candidate in the comments, where it's like, you just say Trump, and then somebody's like, that is the best president we've ever had. Don't you ever? It's like Manchurian Candidate shit. It's like they just hear something, and something gets triggered inside. It's like, I gotta say something. I gotta say something. I gotta say something. And it's just like, bro, relax. This is a comedy page. There's no need for you to, like, if you don't like it, just don't listen to it or leave. Like, right?
Right. What do you ever? I had this, I don't know who said it, but it's a funny, insightful way, kind of like to what you're saying, where, you get these type of situations, especially in comedy, where you are going to essentially offend someone out there. And I don't remember who it was. Again, I'm going to get rattled in the comments of someone who's going to remember who it was. But they basically said a joke has to be more funnier than it is offensive. If that's the case, then I let it ride. I don't care. As long as it's funnier than it is offensive. Now, when it becomes more offensive to the masses than it is funnier, that's when I say, okay, cool. So you can't just go out there and just like hate speech and think it because you think it's maybe funny.
That makes sense. Yeah,
you know what I mean? So where do you draw the line in a joke?
Well, there's people that like offensive humor.
I love it.
Yeah.
Manny, I'm a heart.
That's
offends me,
style.
Dude. Yeah.
There's not one way to do comedy. If you want to follow a comedian or a channel that just makes fun of liberals and it just like trashes and observational, cynical comedy against liberals, that can exist. As a matter of fact, it should. Yeah. Right?
Oh, that's interesting.
Every once in a while, you can dip in there and just see what do you guys make fun of? Liberals? All right. What do you got? And then you just start hearing something completely out of this world to you. You're just like, you leave and you're like, all right, that was crazy, but it's not for me.
Enough of that.
But I understand it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying. Like, here's the thing, man. I believe comedy should be like a social service. The same way you go to like an ambulance when you break a bone or something, or go see your doctor. It's the same way you should go to a comedy show and just see how your thinking works when someone says something offensive.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you really think about it, something that someone says isn't really hurting you. It's just you're tricking yourself into that.
Yeah.
Right? Because the person most likely doesn't know who you are when he's saying those jokes. It's not like they woke up one morning and it's like, you know what? I'm going to talk shit about Gus today.
Yeah.
And his parents and his siblings and his business. And then you go to a comedy club and you're like, hey, is Gus Villa here? Yeah, that's me. Man, fuck your jewelry, but god damn, I worked hard to build that shit up. And then after the show, you love offensive humor so much, but like, yo, let me get a shirt. Let me get a shirt, man. That shit was dope.
Fam.
Fuck Gus. This shirt is dope.
Fool, that's me, dude. That's the thing is, I have a sister, love her to death. That's my sister, right? But she is a very opinionated person, and there's nothing that gets her more riled up. And she, growing up with her, I would always do it like I would pull her hair and like the older brother, younger sister kind of thing. Like I'm abusive now or whatever. But this is what would happen. And so like now that we're adults and we can have these really intensely deep conversations, she can't handle that kind of humor. And I realized that I really love that kind of like offensive dark humor, because I love to say jokes that I know are just trigger jokes, that are just gonna rile her up.
You see, but you're also playing devil's advocate. You're a devil's advocate
sure.
kind of person,
For
where
sure.
it's like, what gets you angry? Is that so? Well, let me tell you something. And it's exactly what they told you it was.
That's exactly what it
But
is.
that's a comedy style that should exist. You should be able to do that. To be like, you can't do that. That's silly.
Yeah. What's
Right?
your comedy style?
I like observational.
The hell does that mean, man?
Observational means like
Talk to a person who has no idea
the
what
perspectiving thing I told you about.
Oh,
like,
right.
I don't take sides. I just like seeing what people are talking about, or like if there's like an elephant in the room, or there's a connection that no one's getting. Like, I like being the one like, hey, is that what we're missing? Like, oh shit, I didn't see that. That's right. I like being that kind of guy. But I also appreciate, like, I've gone into slapstick recently. Like, I got into the Three Stooges.
Oh, okay.
Like, people just hitting each other, physical. Because it's a very different kind of comedy style that I'm accustomed to. So I gotta like get into it and like understand it, right? And so I've been watching a lot of Three Stooges recently. I like that. I like really obscure comedians that are really good, that went under the radar. Like the Canada comedy scene in the 90s were really good. Like if you go to YouTube,
Dude, that's come on, bro. That's
You know it?
super obscure, my
Oh,
guy.
yeah.
Come on. Canadian early 90s comedy.
You look up Canadian stand-up comedy 90s and then just watch a couple of jokes. Pretty impressive. Like, you know how like in the 80s there was a comedy boom in America?
Sure.
There was a comedy boom in the 90s in Canada.
Yeah.
It went under the radar, but they're very well written stuff. And I'm not talking about like, cerebral. No, I'm talking about like funny. Like that was actually a really good joke.
Yeah.
I'll send you the link. You should check it out.
What are some of your like things that you just won't talk about?
I don't like playing devil's advocate. Well, I do sometimes.
Do you? Oh, so you,
but
my
not
kind
like,
of
I don't
comedy?
go specifically like, where's the edge at? All right, let me go over there.
Let's get it.
I like no, I don't like I used to say dirty jokes when I first got started. Yeah.
You can't get enough of them. I can't get enough.
I used to talk about my dick and
Oh,
fucking
nice.
grannies and like doing all this. Yeah, I used to,
Yeah.
but I still love it. Like I love watching a good like Big J Okerson. Have you seen his stuff? He's so good.
Come on, Papa.
I love how dirty he gets. I get it, but sometimes when I go up and then it comes out, like I say a joke and it like, oh, that was kind of dirty because I'm riffing and I'm like, I should have said that. Like that's not really my style anymore. But bro, I just like it all, man. Even if it's something that I'm not really into, as long as it's comedy and people and other people, like if it's not funny to me and other people are laughing, I'm savvy enough to be like, it's funny, but why don't I find it funny? And I'll try to figure it out. Like I'll try to like deconstruct it as I'm watching it. Like I would pay $40 to go see somebody I've never heard of at the Improv, and I'm just sitting there having dinner watching this person that I've never heard of before saying jokes that I don't find funny, but their audience is eating it up. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can see why. And then I'm like, I'm an observational about, oh yeah, that's funny because he did that in a Cuban accent and the way that he said it with his hands kind of like gave off the vibe. And so you kind of pick up on these little nuances that you're not accustomed to. And believe me, sometimes those are even better than a comedy show because you understand it so much better.
But doesn't that ruin it? Isn't it like that? That's kind of like the director who can't see a movie because he sees all the movie cuts and he sees what the editor did wrong and all that. Do you feel like you could still enjoy a good comedy? Yeah.
Comedy is the thing that even if you understand it as it's happening, if you're in the right mindset, of course, because you don't want to be a hater either. Be like, this guy ain't funny. That sucks. That's such a dumb thing to say. It's like he's entertaining people, and you're the only
that
one.
guy?
Yeah, you're the only one.
Yeah. You might as well be a heckler,
Yeah.
you loser. Yeah.
And you would probably heckle
For
be like,
sure.
I find this funny. Hey, I know there's 300 people here, but me in particular, not feeling
It ain't funny, bro.
with a smile like that.
With a George Carlin shirt on.
That looks like a sketch. You gotta do something like that.
I could do
Gold
that.
chains.
It ain't funny, bro.
Sunglasses inside.
Oh, yeah.
No, I've appreciated and still do like. I remember when I first got my first stand-up comedy special on VHS when Blockbuster was still around.
You bought it like somebody else's.
No, Blockbuster.
No, that's what I'm saying. It was a different comedian, not your own special.
I was like 11 years old.
That's what I'm saying.
It was Eddie Murphy's Raw.
Oh, come on, dude. That's
I've never seen. Now imagine an 11-year-old, and this is why you can appreciate comedy even if you are deconstructing it, because sometimes you'd be pleasantly surprised. Is what I'm trying to say. Like you can see something, you can see someone that's not funny, but then he does something that's so left field because you're not accustomed to that comedy style. Then you're just like, that was good, and I did not see that coming from you. So Eddie Murphy's a good example of this because I'm 11 years old. My kind of comedy was like Nickelodeon, all that. You know what I'm saying? Like all that cute child stuff. And then when I put in Eddie Murphy's Raw, and then he's there like playing his character, Lillian, you can't use my phone. You better yell out the window or something. And I could see him playing the character. It beats anything I've ever seen as a child.
come on, but dude, that is the holy grail of like specials, man.
Yeah. To this day, it still holds up.
Oh, come on. Of course it does. Of course it does. Do you do a lot of that comparing though? Do you do some of the like there
Special comparing, like this special is good.
No. Just I'm talking about to where you are to where eventually you are going to get, right? So like, in the Cuban link world or in the jewelry, I can only compare it to something kind of that I know, right? I get it all the time. People will reach out to me and they'll be like, "Hey man, I made a Cuban link at my house. I know it's not good, but like, whatever." Or someone will hit me, "Oh man, I tried a Cuban link and it's really, really hard. It didn't come out well." And like, yeah, I realized that that's just not my thing. And so I stopped, right? So I think people sometimes in any sort of, whether you're a comedian, a jeweler, it doesn't matter really what it is, you look at the top tier, the Eddie Murphy Raw special, and then you see what you're doing
I
at.
see what you mean.
And so do you look at it and be like, damn, dude,
Like
kind
a
of like what I
status-
said earlier.
like a status quo?
Yeah. Like, do you ever do comparisons? Like, oh my God, am I ever
can't.
going to be compared?
When it comes to Cuban links,
Yeah.
So the art of Cuban links is the closer you are to the perfection of it, right? Like when you look at a good Cuban link, it's not subjective.
Sure.
Like there's certain things that you can do. Be like, this thing hangs straight.
It's not supposed to hang straight. Stop saying that. God,
It's not, I thought that was the thing I saw on
Manny,
YouTube.
if you say that one more
All right,
time,
tell me why it should
I
be
am the
hanging
biggest
straight.
ad. No, I don't care about that. All right, we'll talk about that later. God,
You see, now you got me beat because this
can't
isn't
believe
my realm. This is your realm.
Jesus.
According to YouTube, you got to hold it up and it's got to hang
dude,
straight.
Manny, if
and
I
if there's
could-
a kink, is this your way of saying that the one I'm about to buy has a kink in it? You're like, Manny, what did I tell you? If there's a kink in it, there's nothing wrong with it. Now buy it. And then after I buy it, be like, that idiot actually fell for it.
It's one of the bigger myths of Cuban link chains.
All right,
told by people that don't know it. But go ahead.
Why is a straight Cuban link not considered? Status quo?
Most of them can be straight, right? You can do it, but there's a million other things that you check before it hangs straight. And on bigger pieces, you purposely add a curve to them so that they can lay flat. See how your chain is? Model the chain. Oh my God, you sex symbol.
I feel it.
It's hanging perfectly flat on your piece. When it hangs straight and it's that big, it will hang like there'll be like it'll be like leaning forward.
So if it's too straight, it starts doing this.
That's exactly right.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So
And then,
when you hold it up, you got to see a
so
little
you'll
thing
see
like,
so you'll see it go straight, and then we purposely you remember the rolling mill that I showed you earlier?
Yeah.
We push it enough to where it starts to bend a little.
Oh, and
We-
you know what?
we
While I was
added
putting
on.
it on, I was having a hard time because I saw that there was a little bit of a bend at the
Papa,
end of
this
it.
ain't my first rodeo,
And
dog.
then he had to help me put it on. Hey, all right. If you guys need the best Cuban links in Miami,
Shut up.
Gus
Stop with the
Villa
plug.
Jewelry.
Shut up, Manny. Damn it.
No, man, I'm
Hey,
just saying.
Anyway, you were telling me about the comparison about you and the big dogs.
So, so when you look at the art of Cuban links, details like that, they're not complex. This is a well-made Cuban link. Period. It's 10K gold, 14K gold, whatever. It's measurable, right? In the realm of comedy, you can't measure a personality, right? It's a little more complex to the point where it's like you're it's like saying, well, this human is worth 10 points more than that human because whatever, And unfortunately, we are getting to that level when it comes to social media. It's like, how many followers you got? That's it?
Yeah.
I can't date you. You ain't my kind, my style.
That's how I am. Honestly.
It's unfortunate, but that's slowly what we're getting to is like how many people care about what you talk about.
So do you do it because you just can't quantify? You don't really compare yourself
It's
to other
subjective.
people? Yeah.
So like, if you see Louis C.K. and then you see Dave Chappelle, some people will be like, I like Louis C.K. more. Other people will say, I like Dave Chappelle more. But if you have two gold chains that are 14K, 24-inch with the curve, 292 grams or whatever. And then you go, which one do you like more? I was like, I'll take either one.
Yeah.
Because it's a 14K.
Yeah. So it's
gold
more
chain.
like there's more definitive yes or no. This
Right.
is good. This is not good.
Exactly.
Where do you see yourself, speaking of like bigger people, where is the trajectory of where you want to go? Because I know that, again, in doing the research, because I want to date you or whatever, because we started this podcast, in that trajectory, for the first time ever, truth be told, I heard the terminology, I'm a comedy coach. And then I started thinking about all my herb-ass friends who are not funny at all. And I thought, is this like a fitness coach? Like, can I just, bro, take a couple of classes with my boy at Tropical Park. He's going to work you out or whatever. And all of a sudden, you're going to be funny.
I feel it too. Like some people like you coach people to be funny. Like, how do you? It's so coaching has been around for a while. It's a very niche kind of service. So do you know, like, what's the best way I can say this? So do you know, like, when someone someone buys a car, and then some person would buy a car and just drive it around like whatever. Another person buys a car and wants to get accessories for it, wants to get a hat that says Mustang or Honda, and then they kind of like live that lifestyle where it's like, I just want to pack as much as I can about this thing that I'm in love with in my life, right? Mm-hmm. That's what I would say. That's something of what coaching is like, where it's like, I want to be so embellished in something that I'm going to hire someone to add more to that in my life. So it's not that a coach is giving you the success, but rather you're already on the way, and then you're just hiring someone to guide you. But then, of course, when you're there, you get all the credit for it. What the coach does is it gives you like the hand where as you take the next step, you kind of do a little more confident because someone is there for you. Mm-hmm. So with the experiences I've had, the successes I've had, the failures I've had, the people I've met, the businesses I run, in 2020, I was certified to be a virtual coach, and I told myself, you know what, I just got to like bite the bullet and just tell people that I show you how to be successful in your lifestyle when it comes to comedy. Because my whole life is comedy. Like, I wake up, I put on Sirius XM, right? I perform at night. I write in between. I post content. So like, I'm always embellished in comedy. Mm. I may not be the funniest person you've ever met, but like, I take this very seriously. So if someone were to come to me and be like, recently I just, someone said to me, my son is very awkward. He's 12. He's about to turn 13. So he's going through that hormone era, and he can't get a girlfriend. And so they hire me. And this is from Wisconsin, right? And they hire me.
Shut up.
Yeah. I got a dozen of clients. They're not all from Miami. I only have 2 from Miami, but I have like 11 more from other cities. And they all are different walks of life. An older person wants to get into stand-up comedy. Someone's kid can't get a girlfriend. Someone wants to start a business when it comes to comedy or create content online. And then, you go online and you try to find someone that can help you in their particular little path. And then if they see that I'm doing something similar to what they want, they can be like, hey man, how are you doing this? Show me how are you write? How do you write? How do you do Instagram?
Yeah, the same questions I was asking.
Yeah,
the curious ones, man. I think most people want to know that.
I think everyone's funny, man. All you have to do is just figure it out.
Do you have like a set, because you were telling me earlier that comedy is subjective, right? And like when you're a body trainer or you're a gym trainer, or maybe even you're an entrepreneurial coach or whatever the hell they call them nowadays, even let's say you use the example of like a body trainer or like a gym trainer or a personal trainer. Well, that's what I'm calling it, everything but what it was. You have, okay, cool. If you are in a caloric deficit, you're going to lose weight, and then you're going to get abs. So, it's kind of like the Cuban link chain. This has a curve, but it's ultimately the same thing. It's very black and white. And in a world of comedy, which is extremely subjective, how do you coach someone on something that is so gray?
Yes, they have to tell you what they want. So if the father of this 12-year-old says he's awkward, he wants to get a girlfriend, right? I'm going to show you how to talk to girls in a humorous way.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So the measuring, the quantifiable thing is what you want. So I'm going to show you how I get dates, and I'm gonna translate that to a 12-year-old, right? So then, like, I'll give you an example. I show him the music video "Girls Just Want to Have Fun" by Cyndi Lauper.
Love that song.
And I go, hey, all right, today's session we're gonna make fun of this music video, and I want you to see the most epic way to describe a girl's psychology. And then I play Cyndi Lauper's "Girls Just Want to Have Fun," and then we read the lyrics together.
Shut up.
And then I'm like roasting the lyrics with him, and I go, isn't it funny that like Cyndi Lauper in this character would completely disregard what her mother and father are telling her just because she wants to have fun? Isn't that insane? Like, she'll go to jail to have fun. She'll make mistakes that'll ruin her life for fun. So how do you come into that? How can you make a girl make mistakes because she wanted to have fun with you? And then I have him fill in the blanks like ad-libs. It's like, well, I can lie to her and say she's the only one. I was like, now you're getting it.
Yeah,
there you go. You're on your way.
Attaboy. Yeah.
So then we start laughing. Of course, we're joking. Like,
Right.
So we start laughing about these things. And then he kind of he not only understands girls better, but he also understands how to like be funny and like how to joke around and not take them so seriously.
Manny, that's fucking brilliant,
He
bro.
got 2 girlfriends since unfortunately, we're down to the last 2 sessions, actually. It's ironic. I brought him up. I completely forgot about that. We're down to the last 2 sessions, but I've had him for 2 years now, and he's already had 2 girlfriends, and they both disappointed him, but still, at least he got them, and he learned.
But he's out there.
Yeah.
He's out there putting it out there.
Yeah.
As a comedy coach, which again is such a strange thing for me, is this, and I'm really interested to find out, is this a business that you came up with? Because I've never heard about anything like this, because it's in a way it's like a hitch that serves, because comedy ultimately makes girls not that it makes girls attracted to you, but like, you know, most girls, I think if you do a survey of 100 girls, a lot of them are gonna be like, give me the top 3 things that a guy needs to be for you to like be interested in him. And you know, I would say 80% of them are going to be like, well, he needs to be funny, right? Attractive, wealthy, got to be funny.
Humor is probably the most important because it's a bonding thing. It's an evolutionary thing. It's an attractive thing. Like humor, the reason they call it humor is because it's very similar to the word human. Like humor is such a great way to portray who you are as a person. I mean, it's just you in the utter essence of entertaining. Like, this is Gus entertaining people as a human kind of thing, right? So when a girl can get your humor and appreciate it, it's just attractive, because it's like, I get your humor, and when someone else tries to be funny, I don't get their humor, but yours I get, and I feel closer to you because of it. Whenever we go on dates, I enjoy it. It's not boring. And you have to be good with humor. You also have to be a good listener because of the perspective thing. Like, you have to listen to her, and she kind of likes that too. It's just, there's so much amalgamation in what a girl likes in a guy in humor. And I like humorous girls too. Like, some guys say, oh, I don't like my girls to be funny. It's like, no, dude, I need a girl that gives me some banter. I need some back and forth, because I can also get bored. Where it's like,
let's go to the edge, baby.
I'm saying all the jokes. It's like, I feel like I did an hour special talking to you, and I got nothing back.
Yeah.
I'm bored.
Yeah. That, you know, it's funny you say that, man, because like a lot of times, you know, even in banter with girls that I have and women, I feel that a lot of times, especially now in this climate, and not to go back on that tangent, but, you know, humor is sometimes not as important anymore as it's been in before, because you're so scared to for it to be offensive as well. You know what I mean? So, you know, like a little kid now being able to be funny, at what point does he even draw the line, you know, of what can be ultimately offensive, or you maybe teaching him or something like that? So what do you think about jokes in general becoming something of an offensive thing, especially right now? Like, as a coach, how do you tell a new person who's aspiring to be a comedian, a little kid who wants to talk to girls, where that limit is? Because I'm sure you know it, but maybe somebody else doesn't know it. And as a coach, how do you handle that?
A limit of what?
Of it being offensive.
Oh, so if they're interested in knowing how not to be offensive, I would say you got to be tactful, because if you start preventing yourself and who you are, As a comedian, I think that you only like cutting yourself short because it's like, well, I want to like if you imagine if you're writing and you're like, I want to touch on this, but it's so controversial. I don't know how to do that, but I want to, but I don't want to offend people. So I would just say, sometimes it's inevitable to offend somebody, but you can also be very tactful about it, where if you write the joke and you consider the person as you're writing the joke, you can be a little more tactful than if you didn't, right? So that's how I would approach it, where it's like, what do you want to talk about? Abortion? Okay, why?
God.
Why do you want to talk? Why do you want to talk about abortion?
For the love of Christ, man.
I mean, look at someone who did a very tactful way of saying an abortion joke, and I'll just give you an example for you to get it.
God, it has to be abortion.
Bill Burr says, "I think women should get an abortion. There's nothing wrong with that, but you can't say that it's not a baby." Now he's saying his point where he thinks it's a baby, where some people would say it's not. But then he goes, because if I'm making a birthday cake and I put it in the oven, and then 5 minutes pass, and you pull that birthday cake out, or you pull the batter out, you throw it on the floor, I'd be like, what are you doing to my birthday cake? It's like, it's not a cake yet. Well, it would have been.
Dude, that is, I know exactly what special that is.
But notice the tactfulness of it, where you take both parts and you say your point.
Yeah.
That's how you write a good joke.
Damn it, the great Bill Burr. I'll wrap it up with one last thing. I want you to give me the shameless plugs. Tell me what you're doing now, what's going on right now, and how people can hear you, how they can get in contact with you, how they can maybe catch a show. Give me what's going on right now, March 31st, 2023 with Manny.
So it's Friday, so we'll be over at Thank You Miami in Little Havana, which is possibly one of the newer successful shows because we've got all the new faces of Miami performing there very regularly. So if you want to get into the underbelly while eating great food made by the owner and great beers, Thank You Miami. Visit MiamiComedy.com to see the rest of the shows we've got. We're currently working with Tipsy Flamingo Sunday nights, Red Bar on Mondays. Tuesdays we're at Dom's and Brickell. Wednesdays at the SLS, which, by the way, ladies, sugar daddies are always there.
Let's get it.
Thursdays, Aficionados in Brickell is our new show. Wednesday, we have 2 shows Wednesday. That's right. We also are at the Kaona Room in right next to Exotico in downtown. Luxury rum bar. Great place for comedy. It's a speakeasy. Always intimate there. And then, and that's our whole lineup for now. And you'll be seeing me performing in any of these shows at random while wearing Gus's bling because I plan on buying a Cuban chain from this man.
Let's get it. How can they follow you on social media?
Follow me at Miami Comedy, and if you're interested in coaching, at Manny Garavito.
Brother, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to spend time here talking a little
I like people like you, Gus. I had to, man.
Thanks,
I had
man.
no choice.
I admire you because you have it radiates from your skin, your passion for comedy, bro. And I think that anybody, and I've said it on the podcast before, anybody who is so insanely passionate about anything, whether it be, cleaning shoes, cleaning whatever it is, you can tell within the first 5 to 10 minutes of having a true conversation about it. And you could tell that comedy is something that you do take as a business, but it's a true passion of yours. I could see it in your eyes. I could see it the way you say it.
Appreciate it.
And it's truly admirable. And I really want to thank you for being on this podcast, man. I appreciate
thank you,
it.
Gus.
Thanks, bro. We'll wrap it up. See you guys in the next one.
All right. Great show. That was cool. You're the real deal, man.
Yeah, real deal, man.